Bros and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and hoes and heroes. Gonna tell you about
comic books, costumes,
Facts. Boots.
and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Ulysses Solomon Archer.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I am Zach, joined by the Jubilee to my Wolverine,
Jubilee.
Mike.
Wow.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing okay, man. How are you?
I'm here. So that's the best way to put it. Did you ever watch? I know obviously there's a little bit of an age gap between us, but
Oh, is there?
I mean, I didn't mean to call you out like that. I'm
no,
not trying
it's
to
fine,
make an
it's
old
fine.
joke.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
saying that
I'm 81 years old.
my first introduction to Jubilee was through the X-Men cartoon in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you knew of Jubilee. Obviously, she was in the comics beforehand. I'm pretty sure. My knowledge of Jubilee isn't that great.
No,
but
for me with X-Men, even Gambit is a little bit on the outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I was strictly like first gen X-Men kind of
I
thing.
got you. Okay.
And it was all comic book stuff for me.
I got you. Okay, but that's really what I remember Jubilee from is the animated show.
Yeah.
That
I do remember that name from the animated show, but I have no idea what she does. Maybe she throws parties.
Here's what I remember: like long yellow, like rain, trench coat. She had like those really cool,
That's
like
right.
Bret Hart sunglasses.
Wait, you said really cool and Bret Hart all in the same
Well, okay,
sentence.
hey, I'm a huge wrestling fan, and granted, Bret Hart is good at what he did, but I was always a Shawn Michaels guy over a Bret Hart guy, so that shows you what kind of wrestling fan I was at the time.
Sure.
But that's the only way I know how to think of them. Like, I call those the Bret Hart sunglasses, and the sunglasses you see that have just the little strips and like the space between, those are Kanye sunglasses.
Okay.
Do you not?
Sure. I always think of what do you call the ones that all the guys in fishing shirts wears these days? What are the
The Oakleys?
Yeah, the Oakleys.
The fishing
See,
shirt
you knew
guys?
exactly what I was talking about
did.
though when I said one of those fishing shirts. The one that's got all the vents all
I
over
have
it.
one of them.
Yeah.
My wife hates it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like she will make a comment every time. It was given to me as a gift
Sure.
from
From the cult member.
no,
that
from-
wanted you to be part of the fishing cult.
from my mother who I'm trying to say this nicely, and I don't think she'll take offense to this. Is more country than I
Does
am.
she listen to this?
No.
Hey, Mom.
I don't know why. Like, it's strange. Like I know she's not going to hear
I
this.
like to
but
listen
still,
between my stories.
Yeah, she's not to that point yet.
Oh, okay.
But no, and yeah, no,
That's
she's more country than I am. So that's how
you
I
believe.
Oh, and she really loves scary movies and horror themed stuff.
Does
which
she
is
really?
how I'm gonna. No, she doesn't. I'm
okay.
trying to wrangle.
That would be
that
really great,
episode.
though.
Oh man.
She loves to see eyes pop out.
Oh
and
yeah,
things
no,
like that.
just gore,
Big
as
fan
much
of
gore,
gore.
as
Yeah.
possible. No, I was trying to wrangle this back in before we
Sure,
just lost
sure.
complete control of it.
Yeah.
And I figured, Mike, we had talked. I talked to you about it before, and we talked about it last episode. And I wanted to focus on, just because it is October, more horror themed
Yes.
comic books.
Absolutely.
Because that's usually not a genre that I've ever dived into. Like I know that things exist, and I've read about some. Like obviously, I've gone and I'll look through like old Tales of the Crypt, collections from back in the 30s and from pulp magazines and stuff like that. And it's really cool to look at that.
Sure.
I actually
When
decided
skeletons
that.
were skeletons.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
yeah, and there were a lot of mummy curses going around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I decided, instead of looking at stuff that was just awful, because there are things out there, like I looked into, there was like, I can't even remember. It was like Evil Ernie was a character I found that had like, he was a crazy guy who would be a serial killer because he was infatuated with death.
There's a lot more
It's
of
like
that in DC, right, than there is Marvel.
I don't remember who Evil Ernie.
It always seems like the real evil guys are fighting Batman.
Yes, And Batman, and see, I also
'Cause,
thought
I mean, even
about
Scarecrow is one of those where, I mean, he puts you on some balls out trip,
Oh yeah,
you
no,
know, just so he can freak you out.
dude, Batman has fantastic villains,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I thought originally was just focus on those Batman villains, but
Yeah.
it would be nothing but Batman villains for a couple weeks.
I would love to see like a horror themed movie that's just about the asylum.
Oh, about the characters and no, you could do that.
Just yeah, what's the asylum called?
Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, just about Arkham.
Well, and there is
I
like
just love to see just that.
there is a really big graphic novel, or I guess like series that's called Arkham, a
It's
serious place on a serious earth or
Really?
something like that.
Yeah.
That was like late 80s.
Mm.
That everybody like it dives into the history of the
It'd
asylum.
just be super
kind of thing.
cool for it to be all villains, you know.
Oh, dude,
And
yeah.
be maybe more horror themed than, you know, like a Suicide Squad, which is funny and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But yeah, just a horror thing.
Have you seen the trailer for the what's his name?
Spider-Man?
John Cena.
Oh, for the Peacemaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he leaves his bald eagle
Eagly?
eagly out in the car. Yeah.
That looks like it's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Uh
Can't wait. And then freaking James Gunn saying, "Oh, I'm going to introduce a major MC or DCU person in the next whatever movie I'm doing." I'm like, "Okay, great."
oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, he won't say which one. Plus, he's working on some other DC thing. Yeah,
Hey,
dude's just gonna crank them out at this point.
and I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
at
I'm
this
good
point.
with it.
Like I'll give him carte blanche, and then it could be though, kind of like hopefully not like M. Night Shyamalan. Like
Yeah.
remember, like
Yeah.
we saw Signs and we're like, oh, or no, not Signs, Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense. We're like, oh, that's
Signs was-
great, and
Signs
Signs
was
was
great
great.
also.
So it was
Yeah.
like, and not then the what was it? Was it The Village came out, and you're like,
The Village was okay.
yeah,
I
and
like
you're
it.
like, okay.
Yeah, I get it in an Alfred Hitchcocky kind of way.
Yeah,
you know, I
but
get
then
it.
you're still like, all right, he still has it.
And then came the one where the Earth attacks people.
The Happening.
Yeah, that will never justify that movie.
No,
That movie is terrible.
it is bad. I don't think I've watched an M. Night Shyamalan movie since.
I have the one where the kids go to visit their grandparents. That one's not bad.
Yeah, I've heard that one was good.
The one where everybody's trapped in an elevator. I don't remember a damn thing about
Devil
it.
or something?
I don't
Yeah.
remember anything about it. This old that's out now. People say it's terrible.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I knew it had the kid from Heredity in it.
Here's the thing I don't enjoy about.
Or Hereditary, not Heredity. Whatever it is.
Here's the thing I don't enjoy about, and this has nothing to do with comic books, and we'll get right back to it. But the thing I don't enjoy about movies these days are the trailers, and it's because they give away far too much of the movie at this point. I want a little suspense, you know. When you show me the trailer for Old, and it's that everybody's on a beach and everybody starts getting old, and then we got to figure out how to get off this beach. Okay, I know the entire movie other than how did we get off the beach.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all that's left for me.
Yeah. You need to be able to just show the top of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. And some movies have been able to do that really well. It seems like less and less. Like, I'm with you. I can see how.
And I hate to keep going back to this but Suicide Squad did a fine job of that, in that there's a billion villains. Oh, we just killed half of them.
Yeah. And
nobody thought that.
Well,
nobody.
I'll give another comic book movie credit too. Deadpool 2 did the same thing. Remember the whole trailer had it was Terry Crews's two, spoiler alert. Terry Crews has 3 different shots in the
Movie's
trailer.
8 years old or whatever.
I don't.
Oh no,
whatever. But there's so many gags that are pulled from basically 5 minutes worth of film.
Oh yeah, sure.
Or not gags, but clips that are used in the trailer, where you think that his X-Force, his task force, is going to be a big part, and the scene lasts 30 seconds of them landing in. The invisible guy, who turns out to be Brad Pitt, is electrocuted on a phone pole. One of them lands in a wood chipper. One of them lands
great.
and it's great. And then also you realize that I have no clue what's happening in the rest of this movie.
That's right.
And it is very refreshing.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Especially scary movies. Scary movies give away far too much.
You know what? Again, another one that was great at it, Cabin in the Woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cabin in the Woods is fantastic.
And obviously we're not going to talk
That's
about
Abrams, right?
J.J.
Abrams.
No, I thought it was Whedon.
Oh, maybe it is Joss Whedon. You're right. It is.
It is
Yeah.
Joss Whedon,
Yeah.
and we won't talk about Joss Whedon as
Big
a
fan.
person, but that movie is just so good.
Yeah, it's very good.
That twist there
At the end.
but at the same time, I call it a twist. Like obviously, you watch the trailers and you didn't know you were gonna get, but it's like like they let you in on it right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I
That
think
there's
that's
cameras and there's people watching them.
and like that's what makes it better because then when
it's
other
great.
twists happen,
Then it's just a weird trope of all the scary movies,
Oh, it's great.
but there's guys watching them do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So, I mean, it can still be done.
Hey, how about them comic books?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about Mike.
Yeah.
One of the comic books that I got then. So I decided to go outside my realm and read new stuff, stuff that I hadn't read before, just stuff that other people said, hey, this was great. And two that came up that I went and grabbed, coincidentally enough, both Image comics. So we are branching out from DC and
sure.
Marvel, which is nice. And if you don't know, Image basically was started by some Marvel and DC guys there in the 90s. The biggest one probably being Todd McFarlane,
Spawn.
who did Spawn. Like that was Image's first, major title was Spawn.
Absolutely.
Jim Lee, who I decided to cap off October, I would do Batman: The Long Halloween because it's Batman, Long Halloween, all of that.
Lee was primarily known for Spider-Man stuff to
He
begin
was.
with. Yeah,
he was,
then
but he
branched
did.
off.
Yeah, he's done Batman and stuff too. But just a lot
Well,
of.
I think he went back and forth, didn't he? From Image to back doing some stuff with
Yeah,
DC.
yeah. Eventually, Rob. I can never remember his last name.
Liefeld?
Yeah, who
How
created
about that for a guy who
Deadpool?
doesn't know much about movie or comic books?
Exactly.
Pulling that out of my ass.
Nice. He also was one of the four. I can't remember them all right now, but still, just
Yeah. No, I remember when Image came out. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when those first Spawns hit. Man, it was a huge deal.
so
Huge deal.
we get to
And then they made fun of Spider-Man so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's one of my favorite scenes, just kind of like a giant middle finger, is I think we've talked about it before on the podcast. We had a iteration of the show before long ago when it was my brother and I, and I knew of Spawn, but I hadn't really read much Spawn, and so
Right.
I decided to like dive in and read some. And you want to talk about at least the first run of Spawn? It's really good.
Oh, it's excellent.
It is so good. But there's a
One of the
scene,
first minority characters too.
there's a scene where like you just see all these gloved hands like reaching through like prison doors like towards Spawn for help, and you can tell like there's nothing said about who they are, but you can tell by the way he's drawn them. Like there's Batman and like Green Lantern, and just basically all from DC and Marvel from where he'd worked before, just kind of a giant
Yeah.
it was great. So Image, a comic book company that was created by creators.
Yeah.
Obviously, then it leads to more creators being able to do books they want to do and stuff like that. And that leads us to Wytches, which was the first. I said I ordered two. I also ordered Gideon Falls, and we'll do that next week.
Okay.
Because I've read through the first volume, but I want to dive into it more because I read it and I was like, it's good. But apparently it's like pedal to the metal. Like this won the Eisner Award for Best Original Story the next year. So it's about to ramp up. So I want to give you the full, just not an unfair view of that
Sure.
one.
Gotcha.
But Wytches, I sat down when I got it, started reading, and did not get up from my chair till I was done.
Wow.
So
It's a graphic novel?
it is. It's basically, it was released as 6 regular issues.
Okay.
Back in 2014. It was 2014 to 2015.
Okay.
And I'd ordered, and it was called The Wytches Volume 1.
All right.
I got done reading, being like, I don't care if we just talk about these 6 issues. I'm going to order the next one. Like I was hooked.
Was that good, huh?
Yeah, for me it was.
Wow.
And so found out though that there's only 6 issues. So we're covering the whole story here. Even though the man who created it, Scott Snyder, and the artist is named Jock.
Jock. And this is Wytch.
Whose real name is Mark Simpson, by the way.
Right. This is Wytches.
Yes, it is with a Y. So Mark Simpson was the artist for it. Matt Hollingsworth, the colorist, and then Scott Snyder was the writer. And the reason I went ahead and picked Wytches is I'm not really big into witch stories, but I'd read Scott Snyder's arc on Batman.
Okay.
And he's the one who brought in the Court of Owls and stuff. And I had really enjoyed, like, that was the last time I remember, like, I kept reading Batman for a while was when Scott Snyder wrote it. So I thought, hey,
Right,
I've liked
sure.
his previous stuff. Let me go ahead and give it a try. And what I got was a book to me that read like a movie. So it was so easy to like follow and get into. Like it was, the storytelling was great. I'll just go ahead and get into it by explaining how we're going to start this thing off. The opening pages, you can tell it's like a tree. You're in a forest and it's zooming in and you hear like a help speech bubble and it zooms in frame. And by the third one, there's an eye looking out of the tree, like the hole in the tree,
like in the knot.
And you're like, shit, there's somebody, in a tree. And immediately there's something that just feels very claustrophobic to you. And then all of a sudden you see the woman being able, like trying to get out, like talking about, I need to get out. She's trying to break through the hole. And all of a sudden it's pulling the branch away and you see her face and you finally see a kid coming closer to you.
Right.
And you realize that it's a mother who's in the tree and it's her son.
Okay.
And she's begging him for help, like to help me get out. Hey, that large rock over there, like grab it and help me break out of this tree.
Right.
Little kid or her son takes the giant rock, smacks his mother across the face with it and tells her what's pledged is pledged.
Oh.
And then as his mother's disoriented, like, what? Hands come from the tree, grab the woman, pull her in, blood curdling yell.
Sure.
Cray family 1919.
Yeah.
That's how we start the book.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm trying to paint the picture, if you will.
Yeah.
What we have here, to me, was a story about witches that was different because it's not like, the giant green ladies, pointy hats. It was a different kind of, there was good storytelling. There was really great, just kind of good classic horror in a way with this. Our main characters is, that we need to know is a girl, but 13-year-old girl, maybe older. She's a high school kid. So 14, 15, 6, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
What,
Gotcha.
high school kid.
Get it.
Her name is Sailor Rooks. And we start off, we can tell that she's like nervous about going to the school.
Okay.
Her dad, Charlie Rooks, is a author. He's a children's book author.
Charlie.
Yep. And then their mother, I think her name is Lucy, who is in a wheelchair from some sort of accident she had. We don't really know.
Okay.
But that is the Rooks family right here.
Right.
But so Charlie is trying to like ease his daughter's fear about starting a new school. They're like, hey, how would you kill a hippogriff? Like, he's playing it up like this whole, like, if you were a magical creature hunter, like just trying to cut the tension.
Sure.
He gets her to laugh kind of. She gets on the bus and she's fine to go. But she thinks that everybody at school is already going to know about her. Like, we can tell that something in her past has happened that everybody's going to know
been following
about.
her around.
And we have a flashback from
story,
herself of what happened.
Okay.
And I will tell you that Wytches it pulls no punches. So it is a graphic novel. It's not necessarily gory, but it pulls no punches in a way of like it tells a very tough story in a way.
Right.
And what happens is we notice that we're transported back a year or so, or however we can tell it's in the past.
Yeah.
And Sailor's there, and there's this girl named Annie who's just taller than Sailor, bigger, so obviously older than Sailor. Who has called her out to the woods to, I guess, like beat her up because Sailor posted bullies suck online. So we know that Annie's been bullying Sailor.
Yeah.
But what happens here is Sailor can't figure out why Annie's been bullying her. Like it's to the point where it's almost a breaking point for Sailor because she just gets picked on all the time. She doesn't know why.
Right.
Well, we find out that I guess just through it all, that Annie just hates Sailor for being different, for, I guess, being gay is what it is in this. She's picked on for her, sexuality, I guess. Sailor's had enough of just being bullied in general and has come to the forest to meet Annie and pulls a knife on her. Annie laughs and reveals that she has brought a gun with her.
No.
Yeah. And pulls it on Sailor
The old knife
and
to a
demands her to strip naked and to use the knife in adult purposes while she films it so she can show the whole school just how terrible of a person you are.
Sure.
Sailor refuses, and so Annie just what do you call it when you get hit with the barrel of a gun?
The
pistol whips.
barrel or the butt of the gun?
The butt of a gun. She gets pistol whipped by the handle.
Sure.
And so like Sailor kind of
This is fun
out
so
of it.
far. By the way, this is
This is horror. I'm telling you.
Joking. You're good.
This was a great story, and I know it doesn't sound like right now.
No, it's good.
But I'm giving you it so you can tell just
She beats the hell out of Sailor with the gun.
Yeah. And so Sailor like starts taking off her shoes, and they hear these noises in the forest because they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And Annie threatens Sailor, tells her, if you told anybody, and Sailor's like, I didn't tell anybody. And Annie walks up closer to the tree, and we see the arms from the beginning grab this bully girl and just pull her in through a hole in the tree. There we go. Thank you. So basically that is what the whole instance was before. She's worried about is that people think that obviously maybe she killed this Annie girl in the forest.
So the girl goes missing, all that kind of stuff.
Girl goes missing. Last one saw her.
Right.
She goes to school. One of the kids talks to her about, hey, nice to meet you. Watch out for our science professor here. He's a dick brusher. Some of the stuff was a little weird. And she's like, what?
A dick brusher.
Yeah. And Sailor goes, what? And the girl goes, he's all nice and all, but just watch when he passes by you. He's a dick brusher. And she goes, okay, thanks.
Yikes.
And then she
Dick brusher.
Yeah, but then Sailor's kind of relieved because it's like, oh, she's just like talking to her like a regular person.
Yeah.
To which then the girl next asks, hey, did you kill that girl?
Oh, nice.
So like,
poor girl,
Sailor,
she can't get away from it.
Yeah, no, she can't get away from it. Sailor is just, shitty day, goes home, hates the fact that, this is life now. They're still moving into a new house. I guess I didn't say that this is them relocating from where
I think
it was before. Sailor starts complaining, or I guess not complaining, but Sailor's trying to go to sleep and she hears like noises outside that it's always written as chit, chit, chit. Yeah, like that.
Sure.
And she turns and looks, and there's like this just decrepit old thing out in one of the trees, right?
Person or thing?
Thing.
Okay.
I mean, it's humanoid.
Okay. All right.
But it's a thing.
Yep.
It sweeps in, breaks the glass, scares the hell out of Sailor, attacks her neck somehow.
Sure.
Yeah. Everybody's freaked out.
Well, at least Sailor is.
Well, Sailor is.
I don't know about the decrepit thing.
No, I don't know about that. It leaves. I'm trying to think of a way to hurry this up because this part is where it gets kind of.
You're good.
So, whatever it is, she feels like they can watch her through this like bump that's on her neck. Like she feels like whatever is attached to is like it. Like there's a whole scene where she's in gym class and she like dives into the water.
Yeah.
And it turns into an eye. Like obviously it's not, but she feels like they're tracking her somehow.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cover of Wytches 2 here.
And it has the eye, right?
That thing circled on her neck. Yeah.
Great art, by the way, through this whole thing. So she feels like they're able to like spy on her through whatever this is. And she's hearing voices in her head and she can't deal with it.
Right.
So she steals the school bus and she's like heads back to this, I'm trying to think, this forest where obviously where Annie was taken.
Right.
Where it originally happened.
She's going back to the original scene of the crime.
Yeah. Gotcha. And because she's got to figure out, like, they want me. Like, these voices keep calling me.
Right.
So she runs away to go there. Her dad, trying to find her, comes in and it's hard to describe. He's basically hit over the back of the head with a prosthetic leg.
Oh, okay. Is this her mom's prosthetic leg?
No. Her mom is just in a wheelchair.
It's just a prosthetic
It's an old
leg.
woman. An
Okay.
old woman, shaved head,
Okay.
who basically tells him, you have no daughter. Like, don't come looking for her. You're not going to get her.
Yikes.
Like, just leave this alone. And she, like, you know, gives him something to, like she blows powder in his face that, like,
Sure.
petrifies him. So he, like, can't move.
Right.
And then she stabs, like, a needle into his stomach area.
Wow.
And starts moving it around a bit and doing something, basically.
Yuck.
They call the cops, obviously, tell her, hey, this weird woman with no legs, like, you know, attacked me. And the cops are like, yeah.
That's an awkward phone call to
It
make,
is.
but
It
sure,
is.
yeah.
And, like, the cops are like, what are you talking about? We don't believe you. Where could she be? They realize, no. Yes. Sorry. I have to make sure I wasn't getting ahead of myself. Exactly.
Sure.
So Sailor goes out. She's taken by something in the woods.
Okay.
There's one of her dad, Charlie's friends, notices that Sailor takes the bus. So he goes after it to call them to be like, hey, you know, I'm going to find her. He disappears with her too. Charlie finds him in a tree, like we saw that woman at the beginning.
Okay.
You know, trapped in there.
Yeah.
He goes to, like, try to break him through. The cop who is helping them, like, look for Sailor is like, what are you doing? And he's like, there's a man in here. So the cop helps him, like, his name's Officer Petal. Officer Petal, like
Sure.
the flower,
Sure.
rips everything away from the bark and there's nothing in there. And he's like, I think you need to go home and get some rest.
Yeah.
Like, this woman breaking into the house, stabbing you, like, you know.
Hitting you with a leg.
Yeah, hitting you with a leg, her telling you that you have no daughter. Like,
That's a
you
lot.
know, it is. You're just at least a little bit, go home, sleep.
Right.
He's like, no, I'm going to go find my daughter. And he just storms off into the forest again.
Okay. Storms off into
So
the forest.
Sailor is in a dark pit
Okay.
on top of nothing but, it looks like just a pile of children's dirty laundry.
Wonderful.
And she hears the, you know, and stuff, complete darkness.
Right. Gotcha.
Charlie decides he can't find anything in the forest. He's going back home, and he realizes that earlier when they were looking for where Sailor could be, that the officer has said something about the Here Coast and Here Point. And he was like, I just don't know, where do I need to look? And he felt a pain down in his stomach, and he goes and he looks, and his blood vessels have spelt out the word here.
Ugh.
And he realizes that, all right, I need to go to Here Point. Like, that's where that old woman's at.
Okay.
Shows up.
It's an odd way to get a clue, but sure.
Yeah. So tells his wife's like, I don't know what you're like, maybe we don't do this. Like, this sounds crazy. So Charlie goes, and as soon as he gets there, the woman comes out, pulls a gun on him, throws him rope, and tells him to tie a noose. Why do we need that? She goes, because we're hanging somebody.
Oh.
Yep. So he ties it, you know, immediately. And while they're doing that, she starts telling him the story.
Right.
And the story of this is that basically what is after Sailor are witches. They're not human. They're humanoid creatures. Like, she throws Charlie a skull, and the one he picks up, it's like kind of deformed, just think kind of caveman-y, but with like 3 eyes and like jaws that are kind of, they're just hideous creatures.
Right.
And she says that what will happen is that they're above humans on the food chain.
Okay.
They're gods in a way compared to us as just humans. And the fact that in exchange for a pledge or for food,
Yeah.
they'll grant somebody's wish.
Yuck. I don't like that. I never like that when they're going to grant you a wish in case you give them somebody or whatever.
Exactly. So
Never enjoyed that.
and that basically that, you know, people will pledge other people for,
Sure.
you know, or that sometimes then The witches produce mites in their hair that people will drop into other people's drinks, and they use it as like trackers.
Come on. Wow.
Yeah. So like the witches can that's if you don't, if you pledge somebody.
Yeah.
And then the witches can find them that way.
Wow.
So they can hunt, these people down then.
Through freaking mites.
Yeah. So the woman tells him to grab what's in the bag, that she has a bag there.
Right.
And she's like, everybody, like there's people in this town, like there's a big borough here that has a real bad lot of them, was going to burn it down.
A bunch of witches.
Okay. They live underneath a tree. And he was like, and
that's why they're sucking people into those trees. Sure.
Because they live underground underneath in the forest.
Yeah.
She talked about there's a group called the Irons, which are basically, I guess, fighting against witches.
Okay.
And he goes, how do I find the Irons then? And she goes, go where there aren't trees. And then she goes, now you're not going to rescue your daughter.
That's a big area.
Yeah.
Where there aren't trees.
That was it. But she goes, you're not going to rescue your daughter. But even if you tried, or you were going to be stupid enough to try, there's stuff in the bag that can help you.
Okay.
People in this area, I think I already talked about, because the big borough, there's a big group of network of witches here. The people in this area, I've already figured out some who are like have pacts with them and stuff like that, who are taking kids down there to get, and there's other stuff that you can find useful.
Wonder what these people are getting out of this. What do they?
We find out some of them a little bit, but that's part of it too.
Free ice cream for life.
The thing to me that made this book great is that it doesn't tell you everything in a sense.
Yeah.
Like you asked, like what?
Yeah.
Like we get an example of one or two, but we know that it's happening, but we don't know what these people are, which kind of makes it scarier in its own right, because like it could be something, so small.
Well, I was going to say good horror always leaves a lot to the imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we find out this woman's name was Clara, that they had gotten to her, I guess, when she was very young. She was pledged by her own mother and was able to fight back and fight them off.
That's who this old woman is.
That's who this old woman is. She's tired of running though. Yeah. So she that's why she's missing her legs too. The witches ate both of her legs before she could escape.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you closed that loop.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So, but she climbs up.
She just collects legs.
She ties her neck in the noose and then basically just removes herself from her prosthetic legs. And so she just kills herself after telling them all that.
Yikes.
So Charlie goes back to the house to grab everything he can, to make sense of all this. And he goes in and he's like, I know where Sailor's at. And his wife, Lucy, goes, who's Sailor? Like, we don't have, who... we don't have a daughter.
She's been erased.
And he's like, whatever. So he goes and he's he's looking through everything here that the woman has given him. And he pulls up, he has a piece of paper of the names and he's just looking over them. And the officer comes in and it says, I'm sorry, we can't find anything. Is everything okay here? And he sees in big letters down the right side, Petal, which is the officer's name.
Yeah.
So Charlie immediately pulls his gun on the officer and says, take me to where she is. Officer's laughs and goes, all right, okay, man. And so he's going out there with them and he has the officer tied up and there's a whole thing of them leading him out to the tree where he's like, you can try, but you're not getting out. This is just, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Nobody defeats the witches.
Yeah, nobody defeats the witches.
Sure,
he was like, dude, you got to know that they can get you anything. He was like, hell, how old do you think I am? You can wish to never be hurt. Never die. They can, as rich as you want to be, all that kind of stuff. And
that would not be my wish, by the way, to never die.
No.
I don't want to do that.
No, that sounds like it could be awful.
Just hundreds of years on Earth, you lose everybody you know. Yeah, no thanks.
Then you just become detached from everything. Yeah,
I'm good.
But after that,
I'll take my 70-ish years.
After that moral, I almost said conundrum. Conundrum? Is that what you said? Thank you. Thank you. Quandary. I can't talk. Yeah. And so he has the officer tied up and they're walking out there. He's like, how do I know which tree it is? And the officer tells it ginger, because ginger doesn't grow on trees. And it's an underground plant. That's a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
So he finds the giant tree, ties up the officer, sets him down there. And he unloads the rest of the sack that Clara, the woman, had given him. And the officer starts telling him what everything does. He's like, in there was a bottle of pledge.
Okay.
That obviously, if you were to touch somebody, like wipe it on somebody, then the witches consent it. You have pledged somebody to them.
What? Huh? Wait, what?
It's a bottle of pledge, not like the cleaner.
The furniture cleaner.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a bottle.
That's what I had assumed.
Okay, it's a green bottle, like it's a bottle full of green liquid.
It smells.
Yeah, no, and she wrote pledge on it.
These people smell like pine.
It's a liquid that when you rub on somebody, you have to do that to pledge them to the witches.
All right.
So
liquid pledge.
A bottle of witch pledge.
Which pledge? This pledge.
The list of names.
Sure.
And then she gave him stink, is what they call it.
Stink.
But what it is, they don't talk about really what it is. I don't remember, but it's a liquid like you rub all over yourself.
If you want to
stink. And it basically makes you, like their senses can't pick you up.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's like deer urine kind of thing.
Yeah, and the cop's like, make sure to rub it in your mouth.
Or in The Walking Dead, where they rub dead people all over them.
Yeah. And the cop's like, make sure to rub it in your mouth and on your butthole and stuff. And like, so they can't
stink
smell
on my
anything.
Butthole.
Yep.
Sure.
Different kind of stink on your butthole.
STYNK.
So there's that in there. Then there's like rat bullets.
Rat bullets.
It's made with like rat protein because the witches can't handle animal protein.
Oh, okay.
So it
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does
that.
It does a little more damage to them than usual. And flares that are made out of sulfur because sulfur burns the witches.
Yeah.
So
okay. Well, they
sound
vulnerable.
They do.
Yeah.
And Charlie looks at the cop and goes, "Why are you telling me all this? Like what everything does?"
Yeah.
And the cop goes, "Basically, because it doesn't effing matter. Like this is
doesn't matter what you do
futile."
Yeah.
And he goes, because just as soon as I forget what he says. He goes, "All it's going to take is for me to get out of these ropes, and then I'll call all the other ones here too. Like you're done."
Yeah.
And so Charlie takes his gun, shoots him in the chest, and goes, "Let's see you wake up from that," and like just walks in.
Wow.
Obviously, he is going to because the cop can live.
Sure,
but it's a nice little,
takes him out for a few minutes. Sure.
Yeah. So Charlie climbs up and scales down the trunk of the tree into the underneath like area. Finds his daughter.
Oh.
And is actually able to escape through the process. Like he walks by and there's these ugly creatures hunched over a cauldron, like they're already eating somebody. Finds her though. They thought he found another place to get by. He drops a flare down there. You see even bigger, nastier witches that are like attached to the walls in there of the tree and stuff. But he's able to get away. He's bitten. Charlie is bitten by a witch in the process of trying to leave. But he and Sailor are able, almost called her Skylar. He and Sailor are able to get out of the tree and able to leave and get back home.
Yeah.
So while they're back home, Charlie tells his wife, "Hey, I found Sailor.
Right.
Let's get it, together. Let's get out of this place because it's, the cop's bad. Which let's get the hell out."
Does she know her then?
Lucy basically pushes Sailor downstairs.
Oh no!
And shoots Charlie in the leg
Oh.
before she stands up to walk out of her wheelchair.
Oh no! So she made a deal with the witches. Is that what happened?
And so that's what Charlie assumes.
Yeah.
He was like, "You did this," and she goes, "No." That little kid at the beginning, his is apparently a relative of hers.
Okay.
He was pledged, but escaped and pledged his parents since they pledged him. He escaped and went to the Irons, changed his name, thought that he could get around having to be pledged to the witches.
Right.
Like they never forgot about him.
Sure.
So they started showing up. Like her accident wasn't I don't know if it never really happened or what, but she knew the witches were coming and they weren't going to stop until they got Sailor because that is the current child of that bloodline kind of thing.
Right. She's like pre-pledged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
shiny.
Yeah. And she goes, "Charlie, all we got to do, already rounded up all her stuff. It's in a box. We just have to drink some of this, burn her stuff. we'll forget that she ever existed.
That's all we got to do.
Right?
Yeah. Her and the daughter bring the stuff.
I've been focused on the story, and I haven't really gone through the connection of the characters, but we see that like Charlie is really trying to help his daughter through all of this.
Right, right.
And we have a flashback at one point in time where Charlie had hit a rough point where he couldn't think, writer's block, like he's a writer.
Okay.
He was drinking a lot. There was an old arcade that he used to go to all the time that was like right down the road from where he lived then, like as a kid. Like it was his whole that shut down.
Yeah.
And so like he's up on a Ferris wheel and he's just kind of sitting there drinking, and like Skylar's walked over and she's like, Dad, you need to come home. Like, why are you doing this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And he's like, we used to climb this all the time. Come on, you can do it. And she's like, I don't want to do it. And he's like, come on, Skylar. And so she starts climbing a bit, and she's like, you're too high. I can't get to you. And he was like, basically quit being such a, so scared. Like, he's just like verbally just kind of like yelling at her. Like, you can't be scared all the time.
Sure.
And like she's climbing and she's sitting there and she's like, I can't, it's too high. And he's like, quit complaining. And she's like, F you. Like, I'm going to do this, but not because you're,
Yeah.
And she slips and it cracks and falls, and he barely is able to catch her before she falls. And he helps her up there, and she just is a sobbing mess.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And so like they've had that problem they're overcoming too, which is on top of why he doesn't feel like he's been a great dad.
Yeah.
Everything he's gone through with her missing, finding her, trying to help through all this. And so,
well, if you're making people you love climb Ferris wheels when they, are adamant against it,
exactly.
then, you probably need to look inward.
Sailor starts to wake up from being like pushed down. She's like, what's happening? Mom, you're standing.
Yeah.
And she goes, surprise. It's what I wanted to show you.
Surprise. I have legs.
She's like, hey, this was a surprise I've been waiting to show you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then like Lucy is begging Charlie just to do it, just to like leave her there for them.
Right.
And Charlie goes down and gives her what's left in the bag. And you see him though, like before he does, he has taken out some pledge and he has rubbed it on his face like battle paint. And he gives her everything else in the bag. And he was like, you get somewhere safe. This is all on you, kiddo.
Yeah, sure.
And he goes and he runs by. And this was the only time that I've ever been like, I'm kind of with this. Actually, I should never say that. Please cut this out after I realize what I'm about to describe.
Allison, cut it out.
And it is going to sound so bad now. But he runs by and he smacks his wife in the face. And I realized on second thought how I said,
like, oh, I'm with it. Sure.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
I mean,
at all.
this is a woman who has been pretending to be an invalid.
That's true.
She pushed her daughter downstairs, hoping to kill her, and she shot her husband in the leg. You said,
yeah,
right? Yeah. I think she deserves a smack.
I know, but it sounded weird.
Just a small one. Yeah. Just a small smack.
But with pledge in his hand. So she has been pledged now too to these witches.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
And he runs out there to fight. Charlie does, to fight the witches off to give Sailor more time.
Right.
There's a little bit in that process that I guess I left out, because before it gets that bad, we see that her mom like worked at a hospital, and there was a kid who like woke up and was like, oh, you were in an accident too. She goes, yeah, I almost hit a deer. And he was like, no, that's not what you hit. I can smell it on you. And then he passed back out. And so you're led to believe kind of early that there's something off about the mom's accident, but you don't know what.
She might have hit a witch.
Yeah, but she works with a guy named Clem.
Oh, Clem. Sure.
The only reason I say that is because at the end, as the witches are coming on the house.
I don't like that, but sure.
Oddly enough, though, that part's fine to leave in if you want to. So, but as they're approaching the house and getting closer, the cops show up. Clem, who worked at the hospital, the girl who had tried to become like Skylar's friend and like the whole town is there. And they're like, pledged is pledged. Pledged is pledged.
So it just gets creepy.
Red rum.
Sure.
But then the witches break through the window, and that's when like Charlie's like, go to Sailor, and he runs and
He's like, that's the last straw.
Yep.
You broke my window.
Yep. So he goes out and attacks him after slapping his wife in the face with Pledge. When it's described like that, it sounds worse.
Sure.
So, and he goes on attacks, and like Sailor can hear her dad being like torn apart.
Yeah, ripped. Asunder.
Sailor pops out, and she has like the garden hose held on that girl from high school who's like, pledge, Sailor. They're going to get you. Just, let us take you.
Right, sure.
So we don't have to,
Sure.
And she goes, and she herself goes, you're right, pledged is pledged. And she turns on the sprinkler, and what she's done is she's attached the pledge or poured some of it into one of the canisters to squirt out.
Yeah, sure.
And she goes, I'm going to pledge this whole damn town.
Pledge the shit out of you.
And so she squirts like all the humans that are there trying to help the witches with it as she's like sitting there to get ready. And then it fades away from us hearing like what's going on in the scene. Like we see it happening, but it's a voiceover as you would if it were a movie.
Sure.
Of her dad Charlie talking about because he was like at a book signing, and somebody asked him about the new book, and he said, well, it's really about a kid overcoming his fears that he had, like, learning and being able to look him in the eyes and being able to grow up to get over them and be, strong enough to deal with it. And he goes, and it's dedicated to my daughter, who is the strongest fighter of mythical creatures that I ever, as a callback to the little game they're playing at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, to my daughter, who's the strongest person I know, as she flees into the woods to get away, away from the house. That's how it ends.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It was. So I explained the whole book.
You could just see a movie the whole time.
Right, exactly. And like the art, I don't know if
you
were able.
like that spray scene at the end. That's cool.
Dude, yeah. And I don't know if you, not you, Mike, but listeners, feel like, oh, I have the story, I don't want to go read it. I would still, just at least if you could go and find like some of the art from it.
Yeah.
Because it is drawn just really well.
Yeah, I saw some of the cover art. It's really nice.
Yeah. And I think actually they're in talks of making it. There was at one point in time they were going to make it into a movie.
Yeah.
But now I think they're working on making it into a TV series.
So from what I understand, Image has signed a deal with somebody, like just Image Comics in general. And so, and I think it's Netflix, but I'm not 100%
I think
positive.
you're right too. But I think The Wytches is one of the series they're working on. And Scott Snyder is actually writing the scripts for it too.
Wow, that's great.
So, yeah, I sat down and could not put it down for 45 minutes. Like after I started and I just read it completely
That's
through.
really great.
And it was absolutely fantastic. And I will share it with you. And I wanted to share that story, a Halloween comic story, if you will. And
that sounds like a really good one.
It was
for Halloween.
It was really good. And sorry, there's not.
Now I just like want to read it.
Yeah, well, you can when I get it back from my sister-in-law.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
I thought about that. Just the books I buy for here. I'm just gonna have like an old like milk carton, and I'm just gonna leave them, like put them in there, and I'm gonna leave them here, and we can have a comics library here.
That's really cool, man. I love that.
Do you really?
For real? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I for real love that
because like some of these, like obviously I enjoy reading it, but I enjoy like sharing stuff with others too.
Yeah.
And some of these
so at some point. And this is news to everyone who hears this, but at some point,
sorry.
No. At some point, we'll be moving, and I don't even know if I've talked to you about this.
You haven't.
We're moving into some pretty swanky new studios and offices. So yeah, it'll be really cool to have that kind of stuff around.
Yeah. Well, we can.
So
have
there you go. There's a little foreshadowing.
There we go. I thought about that eventually.
For you 7 people and Zach's mom that are listening.
Yeah. I'm sorry we haven't talked about Rogue more, Mom. Or not. Was it? Yeah. No, Jubilee, not Rogue.
Yeah. Sorry about missing out on Jubilee.
Yeah. You know what? Let's get a little more laughs in here since our story itself wasn't as much. Have you seen just the piece of comic news that's never mind. I don't know if I want to bring that up because that's not necessarily happy either.
What is it?
All the lawsuits that are happening.
Yeah. About all the characters and stuff. Yeah. It's cash grabs, man. It's cash grabs because they're going to pay them off.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to pay them off. It's just, the minute you think that everything's settled with like Sony and Marvel, you see, oh crap, the end scene of Venom has something to do with Spider-Man now, and you're thinking, oh great, the family's getting together, and then we're gonna sue for all these characters. So Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, bye. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's cash grabs. It's the fact that these comic book labels have not paid people particularly well
Ever.
over the years. Yeah. So it's a little bit of reckoning, when you get in bed with Disney and Netflix and those places. I mean, the people are going to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
How funny was that?
I mean, it was better than.
Somebody was in here doing a Howard the Duck show the other day.
Really?
Thing about Howard the Duck, yeah, which was really interesting because it was kind of the first one of those that leads down the road of who is the character, who does the character belong to?
Oh yeah, because that was Steve Gerber, wasn't
right,
it?
Who invented it? How did that happen? All that stuff.
Because that led to the. Let me pull out my nerd stuff for a bit. I think it was the Creator Bill of Rights that they had then.
Oh,
that they made for it. That they made and were trying to get pushed, but as far as I know. I don't know, since I've never been in it, if I can call it the industry, but I'm going to.
Right. I would.
That the industry still didn't abide to it kind of thing. But in a way that Steve Gerber case led to Image in a way, and then eventually too.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of tied together.
I think you're going to see a lot of this stuff, though, as they produce more and more superhero-based stuff or just comic book-based stuff, that a lot of these guys are going to come out of the woodwork and say, no, I had the first idea, or I had the first this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like any other industry, Post-it notes. The guy that invented Post-it notes didn't get anything out of it, other than Romeo and Michelle.
Did you ever watch the Romeo and Michelle? Did you ever watch the Wire? We've talked about this, right?
Yeah. I thought it was okay.
We're not getting into that part, but do you remember the McNugget scene? It's in season 1. Just that whole spill where he's like, oh, so you think the guy who made McNuggets is like, just raking it in.
Yeah.
He was like, no, they have him stuffed down in a basement at the bottom of McDonald's, just like chunking them out.
That's exactly right.
He was like, you think, I just love you think Ronald McDonald takes his big clowny ass down there and goes, hey, Mr. McNugget, you've been doing such a good job. Here's a check with my big clowny ass name on it. Oh,
yeah,
man.
It just doesn't happen. And again, these books are now tied to these gigantic studios, which has never happened before.
No, it hasn't.
You get a one-off Superman movie, you get a one-off this or a one-off that. Well, nobody really cares as much until you get into Disney's pockets.
That's true. Well, I mean, it is Disney. They are the worst.
They do have the most money on the planet, so they can afford to buy some of these guys out if they really want to create this stuff.
But no, I'm not a big fan of Disney.
But the other thing this does, though, and this is serious, not funny. So tighten your belts, people.
Why do we tighten our belts if it's serious?
I don't know. Blow your pants off, I guess. I don't know.
You don't want to lose your
don't want to lose your pants over this story. No. My comment on that is it really opens the door for labels like Image and the smaller labels to get in here and get some of this.
That's true.
Some of this ongoing superhero,
That is true, and I'm sure
flavor.
that because I think The Boys is.
Yeah, The Boys. I don't remember.
Dark
Was it Dark
Horse?
Horse? Yeah,
Maybe?
I think it is Dark
so.
Horse. Yeah.
So
Dark Horse was a great label too. By
it was.
The way.
There's some great. Well, I mean, we'll get. Obviously, we'll do more Image and Dark Horse once we get there because we have to because they do have great characters.
Image was Wetworks, right?
I think so.
I think Wetworks was Image. I don't remember what I really liked about Dark Horse. Oh, what was the laughing surgeon guy? They did a movie. Shit. It was this evil doctor. He was like a surgeon or something. Always had this big grin on his face. It was like Dr. Smiles or something like that. There's been a movie made. Dr. Giggles.
Is it really Dr. Giggles?
Yes.
All right.
This guy.
There
was a movie made.
That was creepy.
Yeah.
I like that.
There was a movie. A Dr. Giggles movie.
Was there Dr. Giggles merch?
I don't know if there was Dr. Giggles merch, but there was definitely a movie.
Who was in the movie? I've never heard of Dr. Giggles, not Dr. Figgles. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
there we go.
All right, there you go, Dr. Giggles.
Dr. Giggles with Holly Marie Combs Ryan. No, I guess
But
she got married.
I just the whole reason I bring up Dr. Giggles is because that's one of those that I would love to see brought to life again by Dark Horse. You know. Anyway, that's just one I remember.
You know that they you saying that reminds me that they've brought back that Creep Show TV series. And I've heard good things about that. I haven't watched any of them yet.
So I've watched a few. I haven't watched any of the newer ones. And they say they're good. I don't know. I always loved Creep Show. I thought it was great.
Yep.
Great
All right.
movie.
So I'll go ahead and close out this fun podcast right here. You can find us on Instagram, Bros, Foes, Heroes, or shoot us an email. Bros, Foes, and Heroes @gmail.com. Eventually, we're going to...
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, the face.
Eventually, we're going to.
Oh, I was making
fine.
sure. Okay.
It's fine.
Eventually,
There's just something else going on over here. You're good.
no. Okay.
You're good.
Eventually, we might get like an answering machine or something.
Yes. We need to work on that. Definitely getting a phone number.
So, and then you can just call us, and that'll be even better. Tell us what your favorite, scary comic is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think fan interaction.
Sure.
Tell us stuff.
Tell us what your favorite comic is, or if there's
In
something
general.
obscure that you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
Or if you just want us to shut up, you can tell us
you
that.
can tell
Whatever.
us that too. I mean, I found out a couple weeks ago that
His mom listens.
I'm assuming that that's not even. She probably doesn't. That is
Sure.
me just assuming, so I don't have to cry myself to sleep at night.
Right, I get that. Yeah.
I found out from Mike a couple weeks ago that he's always wanted to do a D&D campaign set in an office.
Yeah, I do.
So guess who's working on a D&D campaign set in an office?
Very nice.
So if
Good
you want to
job.
see that, let us know. Like, call and be like, yeah, I want to see that. Like,
Yeah.
just call us. We're lonely sometimes.
That'll be video.
Like, I go out and work, and Mike just sits here till I come back next week.
That's
Like,
it.
gets
I just
boring.
sit in this room. Yeah.
I do assume that it's
Just
like a
sit in this
Mystery
room.
Science Theater 3000, where you're just like in the production studio.
Yeah. All the little robots do.
Instead of sending you a movie, it's just me coming to record a podcast every week.
Sure, that's it.
So
I'm trapped.
that's it.
Until you show up.
Next week we'll do Gideon Falls. I think we're going to close everything
Very
out
nice.
with the Long Halloween. Get
Yeah,
some
I'm looking
Batman
forward
in
to
here.
that. Yeah.
So that's what we got on the horizon. Until then, thanks for listening. Everybody take care.
Got it gone.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.